All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third Council of Crowns meeting and very first BOD meeting of the Kingdom of Northreach, 16th of August, 2017. We got a bunch of stuff on the agenda, so hopefully you guys have got that pulled up at home so you can follow along. We've got Astro Winds, Ravenstone, Lupin Moon, Frozen Coast here tonight. Icefire Bay will not be joining us. So with that, we will go ahead and dig right in. We're going to start with the BOD meeting. So if you guys would all pull up that agenda. I see you in the background. Red. And not a lot on the board agenda, but we're going to go through that stuff here. First board meeting. The board meeting is a little bit more formal than the CoC meetings. And even though we essentially have them with the same body of people, when it's officially a BOD meeting, we have some different rules that we have to adhere to, according to state law and things like that. So, is there any member of the board that has not seen the board agenda for this evening?
I've seen it.
Right.
Looking at it now.
Who has not seen it? Has anybody not seen it? All right, hearing no responses to that question, I'm going to assume that everybody has seen it, and we are going to do a quick vote to accept the agenda as is. Now, there's a couple different ways that we will vote. On fairly informal topics like accepting the agenda, we will simply ask for anyone that is opposed to it, rather than asking for each vote individually, whereas more formal votes, we will call for each person's individual vote on that. The way voting will work in BOD meetings, and we'll probably adopt this for CoC meetings as well, is any item that's on the agenda for discussion or for a resolution will be voted on before we discuss it, discussed if there's contention in the voting. What that does is it saves us a lot of time from discussing something that we're already agreed upon. And that just helps keeps the meetings a little bit shorter, because some of the stuff we could probably talk about forever, but as long as we're already on the same page, there's no need to waste a lot of meeting time on it. Any questions about that? We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 8:15. Track of, and the agenda has already been accepted by the members. And we'll move on to agenda item number 1, which is to vote on changing banks. We've talked about this for a while. Essentially, Alaska USA has made it almost impossible for us to continue using them as a bank, because they require all changes of signatures require both the outgoing signatories and the incoming signatories to all be in the same place physically to change names in the bank account. So that means that every time we have a new prime minister in Astro Winds, the secretary of the organization, the president of the organization, the old secretary of Astro Winds, or prime minister, the new prime minister, everybody has to be in the same place physically to sign paperwork, which is kind of ridiculous in a day and age when I can buy $1 million house without ever signing a piece of paper. So Research Hadeland, as Northreach prime minister and secretary of the board, has brought to us for consideration Denali Alaskan Federal Credit Union. Is that correct?
That is
who
correct.
Says that we can sign everything digitally, which means that nobody has to even leave their house. So
Yep, after the initial accounts are opened, which will require physical signatures, then after that point, any signature changes that need to occur, as long as they're accompanied by the appropriate board minutes that approve the changes, can all be done via electronic signature, which they set up for us.
the chair recognizes the secretary.
All right.
Did you have anything else to add?
Nope, that was it.
Okay. Then we're going to call this to a vote. All board members, this is simply in favor of or not in favor of. So it's yes or no to change to this new bank. So Astro Winds?
Yes.
Ravenstone?
Yes.
Lupin Moon?
Yes.
Frozen Coast?
Yes.
Okay. CEO, yes. And secretary?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a unanimous vote. That carries. No reason to discuss it further. Secretary and Treasurer, you now have the board's approval to move forward with changing banks. If you need anything else from the board, please let us know. Otherwise, we will leave that to you to do.
I have one question pertaining to
Okay.
Procedural. I didn't see who made that motion or seconded.
These are ones that need to be motioned or seconded simply because they're on the agenda and approved by the board to be voted on.
Okay.
All right, so the next one, this is more of a, this is where we would have motions and seconds and nominations and things. We have several positions on the board that need to be filled. Legally, we are required to have a vice president who can be neither myself nor Hadeland as the president and secretary, respectively. We also have traditional positions of liaison, and unofficially, we've had things like directors of membership, and things like that, and we can absolutely do that. We have tasks for those positions should we choose to use them. All of you are automatically board members. So you are all directors. If you want to be director of something specific, you are welcome to nominate somebody to do that. Legally, we do need to resolve having a vice president tonight. In the past, the position of liaison is used so that we have a point of contact for outside agencies, which includes other Amtgard kingdoms. But they would simply be the person that would be the first point of contact for, like, say, you know, a venue that wanted to talk to the board or whatever. They would handle all of that communication so that it all comes through one channel. That can double up. That can be any other position. The vice president can also be the liaison. The secretary can also be the liaison. That doesn't matter. Director of membership would be the kind of person that would be in charge of, if we would delegate it to them, reviewing membership applications, checking to make sure that we're not authorizing people that have been banned in, you know, Neverwinter to come play with us, things like that. So that can also be treasurer or any other person. The only ones that have to be separate are president, secretary, treasurer, and vice president. So doing those sort of one at a time, let's deal with the one that we have to do first, which would be vice president. Do we have any nominations for president? And again, or vice president, I mean, the process would be somebody would nominate somebody, and then another member would have to second that nomination, and in which case we would vote on it unless the person being nominated withdraws themselves.
I would like to nominate myself, Kraken, Jonathan Jacobs, as vice president.
I might have missed it, but could you go over the responsibilities of our vice president again?
The responsibilities of the vice president are to act in place of the president should the president be unavailable to do so. Now, our bylaws and admin manual provide a long-term solution of that, of the regent stepping into that position. So if I were to vacate the position of monarch or president, then Josh would step up to take over that. But if I'm not available short-term, then the vice president would step in to handle board business.
Is that it?
I mean, they're a glorified second in command. Essentially, they're a contingency, so that the board can operate all the time, even if I can't be there.
Since Minnie already operates kind of like the vice president, I would like to nominate Minnie to be our vice president.
That's a great suggestion. However, they have to be a member of the board.
Okay.
So Minnie can't do it. He can only do it if I quit, and then it's all his.
My mistake. He was in our board director's Facebook page, so I thought.
I actually, and to speak to that real quick, not to get too far off topic, I've included Minnie in the Facebook pages and discussion groups of anything that he might have to take over should I vacate, just in the interest of continuity for the organization. He's not there to be, he's just there to be an observer, so he can be brought up to speed very quickly if for some reason I can't continue in office.
Well, I would still like to motion that I would put my name in for vice president.
Okay, so we have a motion for Jonathan. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Delhi for vice president. Austin Labor, Astral Winds.
Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second it. Can I second it?
You can, absolutely.
Sweet.
Okay, so we have, are there any other suggestions or nominations for vice president? Okay, so we will have a vote, and the vote options will be Deli, Jonathan, or abstain. Any questions on that? Okay, then we will vote north to south again. Astra wins.
Deli.
Okay. Ravenstone,
Kraken.
Lupin Moon,
Kraken.
Frozen Coast.
Delhi.
You guys are killing me. Secretary.
Kraken. Did that come across?
No, sorry.
Kraken.
Okay, so I will vote Delhi. So that puts us at a tie, and we do not have our ex officio here with us today, whose job it is to break ties. Let me ask him where he's. You know what? He might not. Well, he should be aware. So we're going to table this until I can get the ex officio going here. The ex officio, for those of you guys that are unfamiliar with board speak, whenever the president steps down from office, so in our previous monarch, they are on the board for a year in a non-voting position in order to help us maintain continuity across terms. Hadeline, can you send Lucian a text? My messenger's updating all of a sudden. And they only get to vote in order to break ties. So if he can't make it tonight, then this will be tabled as unresolved until the next board meeting. We'll probably do an online vote. And what we'll do is we'll try to capture Icefire Bay's vote. And if we can, then that would break the tie as well. So, but if we can get the ex officio here tonight, then we can resolve it and move on. The next topic of discussion would be whether or not we feel the need to appoint somebody as liaison or director of membership, or if we feel comfortable letting existing offices handle those, which I think liaison would probably default to me and director of membership would probably fall to the secretary treasurer. So basically, if anybody has a thought on that, they can simply make a motion.
We can always not have a liaison, right?
The liaison and the director of membership are just extra offices that have been used in the past to help delegate some work if somebody had an urge to want to do it.
All right.
Hadeline, did you link him the link to this meeting? Because I think we may have.
I'm waiting for a reply that he's available at all.
Okay. We may have been neglectful in sending that link to him because I don't know if he's paying attention to the board group right now.
Okay. I will also send it to him.
So, thank you. All right. So, I hear no motions to appoint somebody to those positions, so we will leave those as their defaults for now. We can always revisit it at another meeting, but for right now, the only one we got to worry about is vice president, and we'll come back to that here in a little bit. So, on the board agenda is the audit timeline. I'm not really sure. Not really sure what that means. So I'm going to, Secretary Treasurer, the floor is yours. Can you explain to us what you need from that?
Yes, so the audits are previously, so a little bit of history here. As a principality, we were required to submit our audit packets to the Dragonspine BOD. First, our board would review them, and then we would send them on to the Dragonspine board for final approval and sort of rating. Obviously, as a kingdom now, we are our own auditing authority. Previously, we had always operated our audit timeline based on whatever Dragonspine's board of directors gave to us. And so at this point in time, we would need to develop our own timeline. again, a little bit more history there. Dragonspine, their rain cycle didn't coincide with Northreach's rain cycle, and so we were always a little bit off in the middle of a rain when we would need to be submitting audits. They were really great, and we would submit our audits a little bit off schedule from when the rest of their parks submitted their audits. So we just need to decide as a board what our audit timeline is, when we would like all of the parks to have their audit packets submitted to us, at what point in time we'll vote on them, and whatnot. So it's sort of a calendaring issue. When do we want to do this?
Okay. There was some discussion on this, and if I recall, the most popular result of that discussion was to have regions submit audit information monthly, basically to every single board meeting. And then the last board meeting of the term being a review of all of those monthly audits with a 6-month summary at that time.
And about I've talked about it with the primal and to that of performing basically monthly audits by using the monthly Prime Minister reports. There were some questions from the Prime Ministers regarding when land statuses would be reviewed, which was always part of this semi-annual audit that we were sort of used to. And so my recommendation would be that it would actually be the first next rain would be when land audits and land status would be reviewed, just so that you actually see the 6 months of the rain.
I've got I actually have a motion for this because I feel like this may be not the most efficient use of board time. So I would like to motion that the Chancellor's Council, the Secretary and her assistants, put together a proposed timeline and something that we can actually vote on. And I further propose that we delegate this entire process to the Council of Crowns, our executive committee, as I don't think this is something that necessarily has to be dealt with in a board meeting. I think that the CoC can make decisions for that.
I'll second the
Can I
motion.
have a clarification?
Okay, motion has been
So do we
seconded.
vote now before we can discuss?
If it's critical that we discuss it before we vote, yes.
Oh yeah, I just have a clarification on that. When we say the whole process, do we mean that audits from this point forward would only be submitted to the Council of Crowns, or that they would be submitted to the BOD?
I'm sorry. Let me clarify then. I apologize. The process we're discussing right now would be delegated to the Council of Crowns to figure out. So the calendaring, the timeline, all of that stuff would be delegated to the CoC so that we don't have to wait till next month's board meeting to resolve it. The CoC can just get it all figured out and then figure out how we're going to present these audits to the board.
It's good to note that our admin manual also says that the Council of Crowns shall review, so we might not even need a vote.
Yeah, and I think it was previously because we were handing that to another board. At this point in time, we're not handing those to another board, but
That's okay. My motion stands to delegate this to the CoC to resolve. And I believe I heard a second for that.
Yes, I seconded it.
Okay, given the clarification, does your second stand?
Yes, it stands.
Okay, then we'll call for a vote. Astro wins.
Yes.
Ravenstone.
Yes.
Lupin Moon.
Yes.
Frozen Coast.
Yes.
Secretary.
Yes.
Secretary. Okay. And President is yes.
Yes.
So universal or anonymous, whatever. Unanimous, it carries. Review of financial statements. It is my understanding that the Chancellor's Council needs a little more time to get that together. Is that correct?
That's correct. We are nearly caught up, and most of the council is caught up. I still have a couple that haven't finalized everything. So at this point in time, I'm unable to provide a complete financial review. However, we're really close in a couple days.
Okay. This isn't something that requires a board vote. This was more of a informational thing. So if as soon as you get that done, just board via electronic means, just so that we can review it, that would be great. The next topic is a informational thing as well. It's the 501c3 status. So Hadeland, could you give the board some information on where we're at with that?
Require up-to-date financial statements in order to submit that application. So that's our blocking issue right now, before we can submit the 501c3 application.
Okay. What is a reasonable timeline to get that application submitted?
Again, and to see, we've begun the process, and I have to look at it again to see where we're at with it and what else needs to be done. So I can't give a reasonable time right now without reviewing that again. However, I can review that application process this week and be able to give you an update on a reasonable timeline for completion by this week.
Okay, so so by next Wednesday we could have a summary of where we're at and what it'll take to move forward?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That is all there is for the board of directors agenda meeting. So if somebody has something they want to motion to try and put on the agenda at the end here, somebody can motion to adjourn.
I would like to motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Anybody opposed to adjourning the meeting? All right, hearing no dissent, I call the meeting adjourned at 8:35 p.m. That's 20 minutes. Good job, board. So now we get to move on to the CoC portion of tonight's meeting. Ton of time left to look at stuff. So let's see. CoC meeting. We're just going to kind of blaze through some of this stuff so we can actually get some stuff done. So calendar committee. Did everybody get their committee nominees or people to the Kingdom Regent?
Yep.
Yep.
I'll message him right now.
I've not gotten in contact with him.
Okay, let's do that, Blue. Don't be the caboose. All right. We gave him a really tough deadline to get a draft calendar together. Let's make sure that your region doesn't get left out. Okay. He's going to be working on that. He had a regents meeting yesterday, and he's already working on that stuff. So make sure he knows who your person is. Your person's been in contact with it or working synergistically. Has everybody begun looking for indoor sites? Do they have a line on what they're going to do? I know Loop and Moon has got their stuff all squared away. Astro Winds, how you guys doing?
Already put in our application.
Doing Old U Park again?
Yep.
Is there some efforts being made to find another location?
No.
Okay. Is that car still in there?
It is. I think it is. I haven't checked
Okay.
since the spring, but yes.
I can't recommend an alternative site strongly enough because once you guys get a reasonable number of people there, that's going to be one of the things I think that holds you back a lot is trying to play battle games in a area occupied by a car.
All right, it's definitely noted. It is a small car and it's off in the corner, but it also has a blanket over it, so it's fine. There's
Right.
no
I'm
way
not worried
to
about
get
you
injured
guys
that way.
car. I'm just worried about like you guys having space. So just keep an eye out because I think if you guys found another spot, it would be worth it to entertain that notion.
Word. I really enjoy the fact that we have a free location we can have though too.
But I will put hours in to raise money so that you guys can find a better spot because I think that
Word.
I mean I've had 70 people in that gym before, so I know it can be done, but I also know how much that sucked.
I would love to take that money if we helped, fundraise.
Well, then help fundraise. I mean,
Word.
but the money, we'll find the money whether you help fundraise or not. If you we would welcome that assistance anywhere. Let's see, Ravenstone.
Well, I put my application in.
Okay.
Problem is they went up on price this year over the gym we were using last year. It's not substantial. It's only $1.50 an hour.
Oh well,
So,
whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you guys were only paying $27.50 an hour before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like $30 now.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's fine. You guys have the cheapest gym next to Astor Winds.
Yeah.
All right. An ice fire bay, but Froco.
I'm going to be talking to the Kenai Rec Center in the next week. Also going to be looking into the possibility of other locations, but I haven't actually gotten into contact with that yet.
Okay. Well, secure the rec center because it's a good spot and everybody knows it and it's big enough for you guys. But do that better, better sooner than later, and get all the contracts if you guys have them. Get all that stuff to Hadeland so she can help keep track of it, and make sure that you guys have insurance or whatever it is you need to get in there. Let's do that now instead of waiting till October and freaking out the last second because there's nothing left on the calendar. Any questions, thoughts, or comments on indoor site stuff? All right, moving on to the next one. This is a vote situation here. So Delhi wants to appoint a GMR. The GMR is not currently a regular member as required by the admin manual. So by the technical rules, probably should not be appointed. However, the corpora that we're voting on this weekend, that everybody voted on months and months ago, the wording change in that would also remove the issues that we have here. And given that they don't have a lot of people lining up for office, it would probably be in the region's best interest to vote on an exception to that rule, since the rule will likely only be in effect for a week. So that's there for us to vote on. We'll do the same thing here. We'll just vote, and then if there's any contention in the voting, we can discuss it. Otherwise, we can move on. So
Can we discuss it?
well, if everybody votes one way or the other, then
Well, it's kind of a weird question because I don't agree with the premise. Like
I understand.
Mhm.
I understand the disagreement.
I don't think an exception should be made to the admin manual, but I think Riker qualifies for a regular member, and I think this is more than just voting and like being an officer. I think this is about being able to vote. So,
well, like I said, in a week it won't matter unless the entire kingdom shoots down the kingdom corpora. So we're voting on whether or not to essentially adopt the premise of the new corpora a week early. And we can discuss that all night, but if we all vote to do it, then it's a waste of time to discuss.
I'd like to motion to move forward into the vote.
Okay. Estrin, did you have any objection to that?
Kinda, because I don't know how I'll vote, because I don't think exceptions should be made, but I think he should be my GMR.
Well, then I'll let you vote last, since you're conflicted.
I'm very morally conflicted here.
I understand.
I don't like the way you worded this. I feel like there's a much better way to do this, but okay, let's go with it.
I'm sorry. That's sort of the situation we're in, and we can yeah, it's sort of worthless to argue about, because it's a self-resolving situation. So, Lupa Moon, or sorry, Ravenstone.
I'll vote yes.
Okay, Lupa Moon,
Yes.
Frozen Coast.
Can you repeat what it is we are actually voting on?
Whether or not to let Delhi appoint Reich here as GMR.
I'll vote yes.
Okay. Secretary doesn't get to vote here, so just me. I vote yes. Delhi, you can vote.
Yes.
Okay. Tim as GMR without any weird gray area conflict arguments, and then hopefully it'll all get resolved when we adopt the corpora that we voted on before. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Is Riker a regular member? Can he vote this weekend?
Okay, that's a good question. Currently, he's not.
Would it be appropriate to look over that section and maybe edit, because
In the
according to the corpora, hold on really quick. According to the corpora, you can't hold holding your credits in somewhere else that is not Northreach immediately voids your contract with Northreach, so that the weeks you spend there don't count towards being a regular member. Goran, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so would it be worth it to take a look at it and say, given the situation, that we might need to amend that in the situation where there's nowhere close to us that's not a part of us anymore. In Alaska, there's nobody, because Aurora Groves is dissolving in a couple weeks. So
and yes, so the way we should handle that topic in general is if you have a particular section of the corpora or the bylaws of the admin manual that you think should be reviewed, that can be done online. You just say like, hey, I think we should review this. Or if you have specific wording that you think we should adopt, then you simply post that and we discuss it. And if it's a really minor thing, like a typo or something like that, then the CoC can just vote to adopt it. If it's something major that maybe affects the way that we do business, then we bring it to the all thing, and then they vote on whether or not we should do it.
All right.
So technically, I suppose that the easiest way to resolve that would be with the same vote concept, because technically, when we adopt the corpora, it would leave us basically in the same situation. So the way we have it set up right now is by the very technical letter of the law, Reikier is not a regular member. But that technical letter of the law was being voted on, or the rewritten portion of it's being voted on. Our membership voted to present that document to the Circle of Monarchs. So I feel that I'm pretty comfortable saying that at least in a general level, that the populace has already agreed that that's kind of the way they want to go. So I would have no problem with the council voting on letting Reikier basically be a regular member.
If we disagree with the current ruling of the current letter of the law, because when I read this letter of the law, I get a different I don't know, how do you describe a different, I want to say connotation, but it's not the word. Interpretation, that's the word. I get a different interpretation than you do.
Right. So that's where there isn't a detailed process, but we have one officer who's essentially responsible for interpreting those sections of the bylaws, which would be like who's a regular member, who can vote, etc. And that's the secretary treasurer or the kingdom prime minister. You have another officer who's responsible for the entire organization, and that's the president or king. We both interpret that the same way, and we both came to that interpretation independently. So essentially at that point, the appropriate way to resolve it would be to suggest clarified language. And like I said with Abram a minute ago, if it was a really minor change that clarified the way we were already doing something, that would be something the CoC would just adopt. Otherwise, the all thing should probably adopt a change in language that will fundamentally change the way that either we've already been doing it, or that the officers that are in charge of interpreting that interpret it.
So there's no way for us to disagree without, removing you from office through an all thing or whatever. There's no
no.
minor way of doing this.
You vote on clarifying the rules, but essentially by adding language that would make it clearer or that would support a different interpretation, which we're already doing this weekend. So, suggestions on resolving the current situation before us.
Can we do a vote to make Reich here a regular member?
Yeah, that's what I just suggested a moment ago, and we can totally do that.
Let's move forward doing that then.
Okay.
I make
Sorry.
a motion to
Any
vote
objections?
on allowing Reich here to be a regular member for purposes of voting in upcoming law things.
I second that.
I'd like to clarify for the language of that. Not for every all thing going forward.
For the rest of the days, we are alive.
No, for let's actually tell you what.
Upcoming all thing.
Let's vote to let his previous attendances in Astro Winds, when he was not a member of Northreach, count towards his requirements to be a regular member. That'll resolve basically both issues. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Deli, does that work?
Yeah, it kind of just votes to, adhere by the rules of our membership in my eyes. So, I mean, okay.
So you should be all in favor. All right. So then we'll go ahead and move to a vote unless there's any objection. Astro Winds?
Yes.
Ravenstone?
Yes.
Lupin Moon?
Yes.
Frozen Coast?
Yes.
Is absent, and Northreach is yes. So this one situation, his previous attendances will count moving forward. Hopefully this corpora will be adopted, and this won't be an issue that we face in the future. All right, any other thoughts or comments on that? Okay. The next item up here is our electronic assets. I think that we probably just need to assign a coordinator to oversee them and sort of gather information on who the moderators are, make recommendations for new moderators or changes of moderators, etc. Any thoughts on that?
So this would be assigning one person to go through all of our electronic assets, making sure that we have moderators for all of them.
And knowing who they are.
And knowing who they are.
If there aren't any, or if those people are defunct or inactive, that we then replace them.
Okay. And
it's just a little bit of busy work.
Let's say we find one that's a Northreach group, but we can't get in contact with the moderators. Do we then...
you just bring that back to the CoC and we'll figure out how to move forward with it.
Okay.
Anybody interested in doing that?
Member of the board?
No, it could be anybody, really.
Okay. May I make a motion to nominate someone?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I motion to nominate Carolee Watts or Mickey Bard.
I'll second that.
Do we have any idea whether or not she'd be interested in that?
Yes, I'm reading the live chat on our YouTube page, and Joshua Watts or Mini Bard is recommending us.
Okay.
Recommending her. So.
That was seconded. Is anybody opposed to that? All right, then we'll move forward with that. We hereby appoint Mickey Bard to be the coordinator of our social media / electronic assets. Enjoy. All right.
I don't disagree, but do we have to? Did we have to vote on that, or was that just like a no one disagrees?
That was an informal thing.
Okay,
I mean, technically, those things are appointed by me, but I want us to just be in somewhat of agreement. And I wanted to give you guys the chance to say, I don't like that idea. Don't do that.
Deal.
So, all right, events. So we've got only about 10 minutes left here. State Fair is rolling right along, but State Fair needs our help, guys. Activate your people. Get them involved and get them coordinated. I want to see posts from everybody. Let's not flub this chance to make a ton of money for our group so that we can pay for Deli's expensive new site.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
So please get out there and make that happen. SenchiCon, I haven't heard much about it yet. I need to sit down and chat with oh my god, I'm having a brain fart.
Sage.
Yes, Sage. About that event and get some information on it. So because that's next month. Now there's two things. One, Grand Academy. Do we want to do that?
Yes.
Okay. Here's some strong yeses there. I think the biggest question then is when. There have been a couple different time frames suggested. One is October, because it's kind of a lull between events and holidays and things, but not a big one. But it is closer to dividend time, so people may have some more, money that they can put towards an event like that. The downside to it is that it's right after the state fair and right before we roll into holiday season and right after the event season. So a lot of people are also tired and broke. Third time is the traditional time that we've done in the past, which is spring break, which is like 4 or 6 weeks after Dungeon Crawl. And it's a little bit colder and, harder to travel then than it is in, say, October. But there's a little more breathing room in that as well, for both us to get the event ready and for our people to save up and be prepared. So any thoughts on either of those 2 time slots?
Would it be possible to do it in May? A couple weeks before.
I don't know, Deli, what do you think?
So that it's still like it's warm outside, but
I think people will then choose between one event or the other.
Yeah.
Something else to think about is that October is going to be when we are, I think, about going to be doing our mid-rains, right?
Right. That's mid-rain time.
So October might be a bad time.
Ideally, I would like our Grand Academy to be between Wolf's Cry and Dungeon Crawl, because we have like 80% of our events between Dungeon Crawl and Wolf's Cry. And during those winter months, we don't really have a big like cool event to look forward to. And also in the winter, I like to think of it as like my crafting time, because you're all cold and you have to stay indoors and such. And having a Grand Academy started off is pretty amazing.
So I'm confused. Is that for October or is that for March?
That's for October.
Okay.
Or any time, in the next 6 months. So between now and Dungeon Crawl.
Okay.
What if we were to hold the event sometime maybe in November? There's not a lot going on, and it would give us time to get everything up there. People can start prepaying for the events, and it gives us time to plan and get people in there to run classes.
Okay. So there's 3 time slots then: October, November, and March. Any other suggestions?
I just have a question. Is all the spring breaks lined up this year?
They actually are, which is a new thing.
Sweet.
Since I last ran Grand Academy, I always had to go juggle around the difference between Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Matsu's spring breaks, but now they're all lined up.
And the Kenai Peninsula is different too. Like I remember, I just took time off school instead of, which we don't want. We don't want to encourage that.
I don't know about the peninsulas. I'm hoping they're synced, but I know the rest of them are. So any other time slots? Because what we can kind of do is we'll do 2 votes if it's just these 3, and we'll vote in our top 2, and then from those we'll vote in our favorite. So any other time frames you guys would like to vote on?
My regent said he likes November or early December, so just throwing that in there. So my populace is represented.
Okay. We'll keep that with November.
Okay.
All right. So then, just what are your 2 favorite time slots, Asterwinds?
2 favorite?
Yeah.
Spring break and October.
Okay. October, November. So Ravenstone?
November and spring break.
Okay. Loop and Moon?
Spring break is in March, correct?
Yep.
November and spring break.
Okay. Frozen Coast?
November and spring break.
All right, so that's 3 votes for November, 4 votes for spring break. So we're tossing out October. We're going to vote again. Pick between November and spring break. Aster wins.
Ooh, spring break.
Okay, Ravenstone?
November.
Loop and Moon?
Spring break.
Frozen Coast?
Spring break.
Okay. I'm also in favor of spring break, so spring break carries it. I like that, honestly, because it gives an autocrat more time to put stuff together. And we can always change it for the year after, but if we're going to do this, I think that's probably the best time. So, yeah, excellent. We're going to carry that forward. Dungeon Crawl, we need to get bids out. So Real quick question. How do we want to? Well, you know what? I'm not gonna, we don't need to discuss it a whole lot here. Let's discuss it online. I'm going to throw up some ideas for the format that the bid itself can take. I'd like to get those out before the end of the month so that people can bid on them, and I'd like to have them back, in relatively short order. There's some event. We need to get advertising and stuff moving forward. So, go ahead.
Do we have a date set for Dungeon Crawl yet?
Well, we haven't actually. You know what? Let's talk about that a little bit. The traditional dates would be the weekend of the 4th. So, sorry, the 3rd and 4th. I actually have got tentatively have hotel rooms scheduled for that weekend. It's always been the first weekend in February. So I went ahead and grabbed those at the hotel just to make sure. We could move it to a different time, but I think that the first week of February is what the bylaws require us to have for our membership meeting. So that's sort of what we've always looked at. Is there any objection to that time frame?
Looking at the calendar, February 2nd and 3rd, that's the first week, would be fine with me.
Okay.
With that date moving forward, even if we don't have an autocrat yet, can we start doing things to advertise for it?
Yes, we can get an event page going with dates and locations and stuff like that, and then let the autocrat fill in the blanks after that.
Okay. And with the people out of state who wanted to buy plane tickets, it'd be nice to get them dates so that they know when to fly up.
I absolutely agree, and that's sort of why I'm trying to put a rush on this stuff. So, any other thoughts on that process before we transition it to an online discussion?
My only question is: are we going to be doing the new bid process where we're going to have the autocrat and the mini the secondary crats where we're going to vote on them?
That was the discussion we had last time, so that was my understanding. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Process. Yeah, no, and that's okay. The process the understanding that I walked away from that is that we would bid out all the different parts, but we would select an autocrat first, and then include the autocrat in the decision-making process for the remaining crats. Is that where everybody's at? Am I off base there? Okay. I'll take that silence as a no.
I didn't hear anything.
Me neither.
Ravenstone?
You're cut out for.
Yeah, you cut out for nothing.
Sorry about that. Regional concerns. Astrowinds, do you have anything to discuss?
I mean, same old, like isolation, and everything kind of stems off of that. But
I'll be up there to hang out with you guys this weekend.
Word.
So we can chat about some of that stuff. Ravenstone, you got anything for us?
Nothing pressing.
Lupin Moon?
I've got two things, actually.
Okay.
So first off, I believe his real name is Tristan. It's Saiba's son. He's 12 years old. He's a bigger kid. Saiba was talking to me about wanting to pull him into Amtgard and allow him to play. I sparred with him a little bit outside, and nothing really bad. He took all the shots or whatever. I wanted to talk about this in the next meeting, so as long as we can just throw that on the agenda.
Okay.
And the other thing is when I not last weekend, but the weekend before, I talked to the populace about what we had talked about in the CoC meeting for those of us, or for those who didn't tune in. And when I talked about the budget being shot down for the extra $500 to allow for a state fair, I got actually a lot of pushback from my populace, about not making more swords or swords to sell. They didn't really seem to like that idea at all. I forgot to bring it up in the last CoC meeting. So if we could just have some more time and maybe talk about that.
Okay.
We tend to
Can we? Is that something that you would be comfortable discussing online?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, we can extend the meeting if you feel it's important enough. But if we can also discuss it online, then that would work as well.
Well, I just think that the budget was a little small this year, and just the extra money to be available there if they needed it would be something that would be a little bit more pressing, since state fair is coming right up.
Keep in mind that when they passed the budget, there was an attempt to make it balanced, I believe, and so we can assign all the money we want to something, but if we don't have it, then we can all
fair enough.
But we will have within the next couple of days, according to Hadeland, a budget update. So, because like right now, I think a big part of the reason it was shot down by the council is that we didn't know how much money we had.
Okay.
That was my main concern. I know we didn't discuss it
Yeah.
that much, but
No, and that was the impression I got too. And I think that was a reasonable position for the council to take. So, as soon as we get that budget update, let's sit down and discuss it, because that'll, I think, that'll color our approach and our feelings on it considerably.
Okay. Besides that, the site fee that I'm looking at is, or the site that I'm looking at requires a deposit. So just that's also there.
What's the due date on that deposit?
It was talking about 10 days before. I need to have everything
Okay.
lined out. So
Okay, so you got a little bit of time.
yeah.
All right, as soon as we get that budget, because that may be something that doesn't even have to be approved. There may be enough budget in your site fee budget line to just cover it. So we'll take a look at that here in just a couple days. So if there's any other budgetary concerns, I'm going to ask that they just be held off for a day or two until we get that other information, and then we can start making some educated decisions based on that info. Anything else, Lufa Moon?
No, that's it.
Okay. Frozen Coast?
I've got nothing pressing. We're chugging along.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. Does anybody have anything else they want to bring up before we close the meeting out?
Can I bring up something?
Go ahead. Absolutely.
Richter posted on Facebook saying, like, due to unforeseen circumstances, our location is the same as it was last year.
Yes.
I'm not caught up to what happened.
There's I don't know what really happened either. The vendor coordinator for the state fair is a little bit difficult to get a hold of, and I don't know, it seems to be not super clued in. So she told us we were going to be at the corner site where the across from the bicycles.
Yeah.
Then apparently that got changed back to our old site because she was under the impression that we required power for our booth, and the corner site didn't have power. She didn't really check in with us about that. She just sort of made the assignment, and then once we found out that we had been reassigned, we contacted her, and her response was basically, well, sorry, but all the sites are now assigned and there's no changing it.
Do we get some sort of discount, or like do we at least pay for the lower amount?
There was no price difference.
There was no price difference?
No, all the sites are basically the same. It's just some of them are nicer than others. So we can definitely lock that in for next year. We've made that a reality, but for this year, we're just sort of where we're at, which is not super great, but
unprofessional.
It's not any worse. Yeah, it's State Fair's a big NPO.
Okay.
And so, they run into some of the same issues that we run other places, and unfortunately, they kind of have a monopoly on their events.
Exactly.
So they're only willing to listen to us complain about it to a certain degree. The nice thing is that the site's not any worse than last year. It's basically the same one. And last year's wasn't bad. This year we have more time, and it appears to be a lot more motivation and energy to set up the booth. So the booth itself will be nicer, and people are starting to learn that we're there and expect us. So those are all good things. And I see a lot of success for us at the fair here. And so we're going to move forward and make the most of it. And I think that what we make of it will still be pretty darn good.
All right, and then the second thing I want to talk about was I brought up Henry last week.
Yes.
A kid who's been playing in Amtgard, or has been playing, but shows up and wants to play. I talked to Reikier about it, and Reikier got what is it? Guardianship or something over him if his parents aren't around, something like that. He said he already had it from like what do you call it, babysitting or something like that. So he could take him to the hospital and all that. But I'm gonna have a conversation with their parents soon. So
okay, and
I was wondering if there's anything else I needed to get from them.
I think that's sort of where we left off, is that, you know, there has to be an understanding. Like, we need to be reasonably confident that their parents understand the activities he's going to be engaging in.
And would Reikier being there qualify being a
as long as the paperwork's in order, yes. So we want to
do I need to see that paperwork and all that?
Oh gosh, yes, we need to have that on file. The other thing too, though, is that paperwork it's sort of like a power of attorney, and that it can be revoked at any time. So we will need to confirm with the parents that it's still in effect and valid, and that sort of thing. So we can probably chat about that at length when I come up there this weekend, and hopefully, if the paperwork's there and stuff, Hadelin and I can review it.
Okay.
So I have to deal with that paperwork pretty commonly because you need it to get a driver's license. And so I get to deal with that stuff all the time. But yeah, hopefully, as long as the parents are all on board and the kid, you know, isn't creating an environment that's not fun for the rest of your members, it shouldn't be an issue.
Word. And he's mature enough to understand what he's doing. Not get
That'd be the fun for everybody else thing. You know. So yeah, and that should be good. And then I would also like, actually, something that I would like to see, because it sounds like with Loop and Moon, this may be something that's coming up more frequently. I would like to see statements from the local champions on some of this stuff. I think that would be really cool for the COC to have, for members that we don't get to play with, or we will never, probably meet for a long time. Would anybody be opposed to asking for that?
Could be in our monthly report from our PMs.
What would be?
You said champions reporting about under 14-year-old people.
Well, I just meant like the champion statement on whether or not they think the person would be okay in the field before we make a decision.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But you guys don't have it. Do you guys have a champion yet?
We probably will by the weekend.
Okay.
I personally will coordinate with Cruven, Cody Beard, to make sure that that's to you guys next week.
That'd be cool. I mean, I think that would be nice for the Monarchs that don't get to ever play with these kids or have any anything, and help them make a more informed decision. So if it's not too burdensome to do that, I think it would be really nice.
You got it.
All right. We're 10 minutes over. So is there anything else that's pressing we need to discuss? If not, I'm going to thank you all for your time and go ahead and call this meeting adjourned. And we can turn off the live stream whenever you're ready.